Howdy, and welcome back to another episode of World Bigfoot Radio.
From the missing to the mysterious, it's time for Christmas Duke and the Cryptid Report. Super Duke, the Cryptid Report with Super Duke. Thank you, Christmas Duke, from World Bigfoot Radio. Merry Christmas to you, my friend.
Hey, Merry Christmas to everybody out there. Glad to be here for one more time this year before I pack it in for 2023. And I got my Christmas outfit on here, and I'm feeling all Christmassy because after working on it for 8 months, part one of Inevitably Finding Bigfoot is coming out this Sunday. And you all can look forward to the greatest spaghetti Western Bigfoot documentary ever, because it's the only one so far. And at the beginning of it, it starts out with this little interlude with several deer that are hanging out in a little group right off the deck of where I live. And it's last spring, so none of them have any antlers or anything, and they're all kind of bunched up, so great video. So tonight I'm talking to one of my friends on the phone, and I go and look out on the deck, and here's this huge buck in the park across the street from me. He sees me come out on the deck, and he beelines it for me. And I go, oh my God, I got to get out the phone. I got a friend coming to visit. And he's like, what? And I go, I'll call you back. So here comes this huge buck right up to my porch, like I figured he was going to. And I know he wants an apple, and I don't have any apples. So I went and grabbed a couple slices of rye pumpernickel bread, and I gave him those, and I videotaped it. So he not only is at the beginning of the show, but I'm going to put him in the end of it too. Because here it is a year later, and he's showing up with all of his big, huge antler rack. Hey, give me some more munchies. I ain't going away. How are you? Do you want some munchies? You have some yummy bread you can have if you want some of that. Hey, how you been? I haven't seen you in a while. Well, I was just on the phone talking to somebody. I saw him walking across from over this way, over here, and there he is. You want me to go grab you something? I'm gonna go grab you. Usually I got apple pan or something, and all I got now is some bread. One piece of bread, rye pumpernickel, good stuff. There you go. Yum yum. That ain't gonna take you very long to eat, huh? Is that pretty good? Yummy, yummy. That was good, huh? Okay. You want another one? Did I grab you another one? Another slice. Can you get it? Can you get it? Can you get it? You want me to drop it for you? Is that too tall? You gonna catch it? There we go. There it is. It's on the ground. I've actually gotten them to, when I had apples, they'll actually reach up and take them out of my hand because, apples. All right, bud, enjoy your bread. So that's pretty hilarious. Also this year, I have a very special from the absolutely terrifying tyrant and overlord of Yeti stand, a secret country nestled somewhere high in the Himalayas, is planning on terrifying the world with a Christmas special, and he's going to let me put it out on my channel. And in addition to a news report about those giant tracks that the Indian Army found on the slopes of Makalu a few years ago, he's also going to do a recitation of "'Twas the Night Before Christmas," what he claims is the original version from Yeti Stand. And this involves capturing Santa Claus and a bunch of other interesting things. So if you guys want to laugh your butts off on Christmas, tune in for that one. Other than that, just really looking forward to the holiday season here and getting a week off afterwards.
Well, you know what? And we should remind our audience that next week, which would have been your final time on Space Out Radio for 2023, we are taking the night off. So this is officially your final appearance until 2024, my friend.
Right on, right on. Well, we're going to wrap it up with David Weatherly's Monsters of Big Sky Country. And it also is subtitled Cryptids and Legends of Montana. As you may recall, where we left off, we were talking about the little people, and specifically about Miniku, and that he had a meeting with these little people. They let him come right in and have a meeting with them, and they didn't give him a medicine bundle or anything. But let's go back to that. One of the little people says, "He will be chief. I can give him nothing. He already possesses the power to become great if he will just use it. Let him cultivate his senses. Let him use the powers which Abat Dat Dea gave him, and he will go far. The difference between men grows out of the use or non-use of what was given them in the first place. Plenty-Coup, we the dwarfs, the little people, have adopted you and will be your helpers throughout your life on this world. We have no medicine bundles for you. They are cumbersome things at best and are often in a warrior's way. Instead, we offer you advice. Now listen. It is you, as in all men, are natural powers. You have a will. Learn to use it. Make it work for you. Sharpen your senses as you sharpen your knife. Remember, the wolf smells better than you do because he has learned to depend on his nose. It tells him every secret that winds carry because he uses it all the time. Makes it work for him. We can give you nothing. You already possess everything necessary to become great. Use your powers, make them work for you, and you will become a chief. So when he was still young, Plenty-Coup had another experience with the little people. This time, the young man was in the crazy mountains to fast and seek another vision. After ritual cleansing, he waited for a message. But after a long process, finally one of the little people again showed up and led the crow boy to a vision, one that he learned signaled the disappearance of the buffalo and the presence of cattle. Plenty-Cou's long vision had other messages too, including information about the tribe's survival and the facts that they would have the land seen from the Medicine Rocks. Today, the Crow Nation is only a short distance from the Prior Mountains and Medicine Rocks. Some scholars believe Plenty-Cou's vision was profoundly important to the tribe. As noted in the series Religions of the United States in Practice, Volume 1, quote, the Crow people survived the deepest crisis of the 19th century, in part because of Plenty-Cou's vision. An important site connected to Plenty-Cou's vision is now the Chief Plenty-Coup State Park. In the early 1900s, S.C. Sims gathered some accounts of the Crow tribe's thoughts on little people and their power. Sims wrote about the tribe for the Columbia Museum's Anthropological Series, Volume 2, Number 5. Sims' informants told him about a location where barren women would leave baby moccasins, hoping to receive a blessing and be able to bear children. Sims also collected other accounts related to the dwarves. Quote, they were strong. I heard a woman tell that she had seen tracks like those of children at the mouth of a cave. Afterwards, she had a dream in which she was fasting and found animal bones outside. A woman the size of my granddaughter, about 9 years old, came out, adopted her, and gave her some medicine. She fasted for 4 days. After her return, she came to own large teepees and plenty of horses. I've heard another man tell that he had seen tracks near the rock as well. And then it goes on to one specific report, the most noteworthy one, the Pedro Mountain mummy. While the Pedro Mountains are technically located in Wyoming, David has included the following information about the discovery of the mummy in a range due to the strong connection to the Little People legends in Montana. In 1932, Cecil Maine and Frank Carr were looking for gold. They had been working a rich vein in the San Pedro Mountains, 60 miles from Casper, Wyoming, but they kept running into more and more rock, making it difficult to extract the valuable ore. Finally, they used dynamite to blast a section of the mountainside, hoping to get to more gold. As the dust of the blast settled, a cave came into view. The small cavern was about 15 feet long and 4 feet high. The men had no idea the cave was there until the blast revealed the opening. The entrance had been completely sealed from the outside world, but the dynamite had opened it enough that they could enter. Inside, they made an amazing discovery. Sitting on a rock ledge was a mummy. The figure was human and in a cross-legged sitting position, its hands folded in its lap. Seated, it was about 6.5 inches tall and was estimated that the standing height of the figure would have been about 14 inches. The figure's skin was brown and wrinkled, and the face appeared to be that of an old man. The forehead was low and flat, the eyes were heavy-lidded, and the nose flat and the mouth wide with thin lips. The mummy was so well preserved that its fingernails could still be seen on its hands. The top of the figure's head was covered in a dark jelly-like substance that was still pliable. Was this a mummy of one of the region's famous dwarves? The prospectors took the mummy to Casper, where it caused quite a stir. Scientists from all over came to study the find, and speculations ran rampant. Experts initially thought the mummy was a hoax, but others were not so sure. Therefore, x-rays were done. and they showed that the mummy had a human skeleton. A careful study of the body also revealed that the being, whatever it was, had met a violent end. The spine was damaged, the collarbone broken, and the skull had been smashed in by a heavy blow to the head. The soft substance on the head was determined to be congealed blood and exposed brain tissue. Another odd finding was that the mummy had a full set of canines, and the teeth are overly pointed. Again, this harkened to the traditional stories of the region's little people and their mouths full of sharp teeth. After the test results were in, scientists stated that the mummy was that of a full-grown adult, 65 years of age at the time of his death. As with any such find, there was controversy. Allegedly, the tests were performed by the American Museum of Natural History and further certified as genuine by Harvard University's Department of Anthropology. Alternate reports claim the mummy was later examined by the University of Wyoming, where it was determined that the body was that of a child. And that's BS. For years, the mummy was displayed in sideshows. It was purchased by a Casper, Wyoming businessman named Ivan T. Goodman, who reportedly kept it on display in his store window. Some sources indicate that it was Goodman who took the mummy for examination and x-rays. According to Lawrence and Ober in Montana Myths and Legends, the examination was performed by Dr. Harry Shapiro of the American Museum of Natural History in New York City. The same book reports that Dr. George Gill, an anthropology professor from the University of Wyoming, received the x-rays and concluded that the mummy was that of an infant or fetus, and he was wrong. The more skeptical-minded embraced Gill's proclamation that the mummy was merely a human child rather than something more unusual, but it should be noted that by all indications, Gill only studied the x-rays and not the mummy itself. When Ivan Goodman passed away in 1950, the mummy was purchased by a New York businessman named Leonard Walder. And when Walder died in the 1980s, the mummy vanished. Legend says that the mummy brought bad luck to those who possessed it, though there are really no tales that elaborate on this claim. Maine and Carr, the prospectors who first found the mummy and brought it to the world's attention, never had any real luck with their mining operations. They registered the claim in Carbon County and dubbed it Little Man Mine, but it never really produced much gold. Today, a sign in the Shirley Basin signifies the location of where the old mine used to be.
Wow.
And that one, those x-rays are still around. You can Google image them and find those. I mean, that's like, they're easy to find. Whatever it was, it looked like a human. It was 14 inches tall. It wasn't some, chopped together monster that somebody put together. This is a real thing. And it wasn't a child either, because the actual several bone experts looked at it and went, in order for the wear and tear on the spinal column and whatnot, blah, blah, blah. There's a whole bunch of factors you can look at. And, I'm surprised this clown in Wyoming came up with the opposite opinion, because there's a bunch of ways that you can tell how old a skeleton is. In other words, how long it lived, which has a lot to do with the wear on it and other factors. So, they were 100% convinced, this guy was like in his 60s when he died. This little 14-inch tall guy. Okay,
Almost
so
like,
now...
almost like the little people.
Hmm?
I mean, 14-inch tall guy. I mean, we're almost talking about like the Indian legend of the little people.
That's exactly what we're talking about. And, the mummy itself appears to show that it had like little buckskins on it and stuff too, which is the same report that we get from here, from all the old reports and modern reports, that they look just like little miniature natives. They have their hair in braids, they wear buckskin clothes, a whole ball of wax. So it matches perfectly with what's been reported forever around here. So here's some modern accounts of the little people. How much time do we got?
We have about 3 minutes before we go to break.
Okay, let's see how many of these we can get through. Shirley Smith had a long fascination with the region's little people. For 40 years, Smith owned the Little Cowboy Bar and Museum in Fromberg, Montana. Smith sold the business in 2012, and sadly, it was lost in a fire in December 2013. The bar and museum gained quite a reputation in its time. In 2007, it was named Montana's best bar by Esquire magazine, and the museum side had thousands of items from the region's history. During her time running the business, Smith would readily discuss tales of the little people with patrons, and she collected many stories and anecdotes about them. Excuse me. Amid the historical documents Smith found was an account of two cowboys who, after being on the trail for several days, settled in around a campfire for the night. One of the men woke late in the night to check out the fire and discovered that he and his companion were surrounded by a band of little people. To his shock, they were no more than 3 feet tall. Other people tell tales of going into the Pryor Mountains, oh, don't do that, and finding campsites ready, complete with campfires going, but no one around. Smith herself had such an experience when she and 4 other people went to picnic on the lower edge of the Pryor Mountains. It was a sunny summer day, and they arrived at their designated picnic site around noon. To everyone's surprise, they found a freshly constructed fire waiting for them. Not something normal for the middle of a sunny day, but there was no one else in sight. Smith recalls seeing the famous mummy when she was 7 years old, but it's not the only mummy story she has. She reports that an uncle who ranches around the Pryor Mountains discovered another burial site connected to the little people. The man was digging an irrigation ditch with his tractor when a section of dirt collapsed, revealing a large cave. He retrieved a lantern and returned to the site to investigate. Peering inside, he discovered that 3 sides of the cave were filled with dirt shelves lined with the petrified mummies of little people. Rather than report the find, the man covered the cave entrance and has refused to disclose its location to anyone. And I don't blame him.
No, not at all, Super Duke.
1991, 2 members of the Crow tribe shared a story with Rich Pitsley, former manager of Plenty Coulee State Park. They reportedly were surveying a shallow cave in an area near the reservation when one woman took a break for lunch. She sat down near a cave entrance, and suddenly a little man appeared. He was about 3 feet tall, powerfully built, dressed in old-fashioned traditional animal hide clothing. The little man vanished, and the woman and her friend decided to say a prayer and leave an offering of food at the location.
They get anything back?
It doesn't say that they did.
In the Space Travelers Club. Here we go. The Cryptid Report. Super Duke, known around these parts as Christmas Duke tonight. And the Cryptid Report. How you doing, Duke?
Ho, ho, ho. Merry Christmas.
Well, that's very nice.
And it's time for all the good little children to hear some more scary little people reports. So, some sightings of the little people, they say, are quite strange. In 1998, a Crow woman reported that she saw a little man along a 2-lane road on the reservation. The little man was pushing a wheelbarrow as he strode along the road. But stranger still, he was wearing what the woman described as a Elvis Presley-style outfit. Initially, she thought she was so tired she was hallucinating, but later the same day, her sister described seeing the same little man while on the same road. Further confirmation came when the woman shared their sightings with others and found out that a local farmer was frustrated because his wheelbarrows had disappeared. A thread about the little people of the Pryor Mountains of the Unexplained Mysteries Forum had an interesting post in 2016. A user going under the forum name, quote, the paranormal site, unquote, recounts a story he heard while growing up on the Crow Reservation. The poster recounts a story told by his father involving a tribal medicine man and his interactions with the little people. This medicine man would stay up on the buffalo pasture through the winter and keep an eye on the herd. He was an absolute believer in the little people and said he used to trade with them when he was snowed in at the cabin by the pasture. He said that he would keep packages of tobacco on hand, and when he was low on food, he would leave a package of tobacco on the front deck of the cabin. In the morning, the package would be gone, and in its place would be a freshly killed deer. Reportedly, the man finally got curious about the little people and what they looked like, so he decided to stay awake and watch them make the trade. He put a pouch of tobacco out in the trade and waited. He saw a single little man haul a deer up to the porch and drop it off. He said the moon was full, so he got a fairly good look at the being, that it was perfectly proportioned, heavily muscled man around 2 feet tall, but an overly large head that had a large nose and a mouthful of sharp teeth. The poster notes that his father had likely heard the story, sometime in the mid-1950s, and the man trades with the little people are probably sometime between the 1930s and the 1950s. Okay, that report is not correct. And
No.
the reason that I know is because his great niece was on my show and told the story detail for detail. She knew him. She's also had little people sightings. So if you want the rest of the story, and it's way more riveting than this account is, go check it out on my channel, The Little People. He also says, I received a report from a Montana resident who told me that she had seen a little person while hiking in Montana in 2016. The woman and a younger male friend were on a day hike on a beautiful late spring day when they spotted what she describes as a little man. Quote, we were climbing up the trail and had just stopped for a brief break and some water. My hiking companion that day was a younger relative, and he wasn't used to hiking much. He was sitting on a rock, and I had just passed him a water bottle when I heard a noise from up to my right. I looked up into the rocks, expecting to see an animal, but it wasn't an animal. It was a small man, maybe a couple of feet tall. Witness told me the little man stood there looking down at them for a few seconds, then turned and walked across the rocks and was quickly out of view. Quote, he was almost like a garden gnome, but his clothes were not brightly colored. He was dressed in a buttoned shirt and pants with boots on. He had a red hat, but it was a dull red in color, and it was short, not tall like you typically see in gnome drawings. I just don't know what to think. I wasn't tired or hallucinating from heat or exhaustion, and my nephew saw the little man too. I know what I saw. Do the mountains of Montana still hide a race of dwarves? While it may seem unlikely to many people in the modern world, modern sightings are, at the least, puzzling and leave one wondering exactly what mysteries we may still uncover in the years to come. And as a side note, I was on another show about a month and a half ago, and the two hosts on the show talked about having come up here to Montana this summer, and they stopped and camped for a while, and there were a bunch of cowboys there. So they went up and asked the cowboys, hey, have you guys ever seen anything unusual? Searching for Bigfoot sightings is what they were looking for. And none of the cowboys reported having seen any Bigfoot, but they all started telling them stories about the little people, which most of them had actually seen, which blew their minds.
Now,
And
let me ask you a quick question here before you move on. What do these little people look like?
now the ones they look different in different parts of the country. The ones around here tend to look just like miniature natives, but overly big round heads, mouthful of sharp teeth, 18 inches to 2 feet tall, generally reported size, where buckskins have hair and braids. Same way that they've looked probably for, however long they've been here, thousands of years.
All right. Thank you for clarifying that.
But they are different in different parts of the country. There's apparently different kinds of little people. So that is not anything you can apply to other parts of the country. So from there, we go to weird things up in the big sky. The prehistoric age was filled with strange and wondrous creatures, many that scientists are still learning about, putting together the pieces of a complex biological puzzle as best as they can, considering the limited evidence. While the average person is familiar with something as spectacular as a woolly mammoth, there were countless other creatures that roamed the world during the prehistoric age, even giant bugs. Meganeura were giant dragonflies with wingspans that could reach up to 2 feet in length. They lived 300 million years ago during the Carboniferous, so we're talking about a long way from the modern world. But remarkably, one of these long-gone creatures may have been found by a Crow medicine man in the 19th century. A medicine man named Goes Ahead was a member of the Crow tribe who became a scout for George Armstrong Custer's 7th Cavalry during the campaign against the Sioux and Cheyenne in 1876. The Sioux and Cheyenne were traditional enemies of the Crow Nation, and Goes Ahead was one of the several Crow scouts employed by the U.S. forces at the time. Goes Ahead was a survivor of the famous Battle of the Little Bighorn and was a witness to Custer's death. His accounts of the battle proved of great value to historians and piecing together a vivid picture of the famous battle. In 1870, 20-year-old Goes Ahead went on a vision quest in the Wolf Mountains. During his period of fasting, he saw a strange sight. a winged creature unlike anything he had ever seen before. Alma Snell, the granddaughter of Goes Ahead, related the details of her grandfather's vision quest as it has been told to her by her father and her grandmother, Pretty Shield. Pretty Shield was the wife of Goes Ahead and was herself also a medicine woman. In Fossil Legends of the First Americans, Adrian Mayer relates Snell's account of Goes Ahead's vision quest. Quote, Goes Ahead noticed what he thought was a bird flying very awkwardly, unbalanced, as though the body was too heavy for its wings. It fell, twisted, at his feet, and he saw that although it had wings, it was not a bird, but more like a serpent. Lizard-like, said Alma. The body was long and heavy, serpentine, with wings something like a dragonfly's and a tail. Goes Ahead picked up the strange creature, took it home, encased it in beadwork, and wrapped it up. This became his main medicine. Goes Ahead carried the mummified creature with him everywhere. Some even believe the man's medicine power was instrumental in his survival of the Battle of the Little Bighorn. Some sources say Goes Ahead knew that Custer was going to lose the battle that day. Whatever the case, after the now famous fight, Goes Ahead went to Squaw Butte, a pine-covered ridge, where he climbed high into the treetops and carved the image of his medicine creature onto the bark of a tree. Almost 100 years later, in 1973, historian William Boys and Alma Snell traveled to the Little Bighorn battlefield. Boys knew that Goes Ahead had carved something up in the tree, and with Snell's guidance, he sought out the exact location. Boys located the tree, climbed it, and found the carving left by Goes Ahead. According to the historian, the impression was a careful carving about 15 to 18 inches long that must have taken hours to make. Boys said the carving resembled both a winged serpent and a dragonfly. It's notable that Snell didn't tell Boys what the creature looked like, so he was under no preconceived notion when he looked for the carving that had been left by the old warrior. Boys made a sketch of what he found that day, and his drawing resembles a dragonfly. Sadly, the amazing artifact is no longer with us. Goes Ahead kept the preserved creature until 1900, the year that he converted to Christianity. After his baptism, he believed the medicine object was a pagan symbol and disposed of it. Reportedly, either he or someone close to him threw the item into the Little Bighorn River, where it was, we can guess, lost forever. Adrian Mayer notes learning of two other natives who reportedly witnessed strange flying creatures similar to what Goes Ahead saw. One is Chief Medicine Crow, who reportedly saw a, quote, snake with wings that he drew a sketch of sometime in 1880. The other is a Native American artist named Wayne George, who Mayer met. George reported that during his own vision quest, he had seen both dinosaurs and a meganura. Really? And yeah, interesting to note that snake with wings, that's the Quetzalcoatl from South and Central America. The winged serpent, the flying snake. So, very strange reports there. And now this is one of Dave's favorite ones, and he's always worried about this. He's always wearing a cone-shaped hat that's waterproof just in case. Because now we're going to talk about Thunderbirds. It should it should come as no surprise that the sweeping skies of Montana have yielded reports of Thunderbirds. In fact, I think I may have spotted one about 3 years ago. But we'll read these other reports. In cryptozoology, the term Thunderbird has become somewhat generic and is often used for large flying bird-like creatures that have been reported by people all over the United States. In some cases, the descriptions sound like normal birds, other than their incredible size, with feathers, beaks, and other avian features. In other cases, witnesses report flying creatures that resemble something from prehistoric times, with massive heads, long tails, and leathery wings. And yeah, I was just looking at a video yesterday that somebody took over Idaho that looks exactly like a pteranodon flying over it. I don't know what the hell they filmed, but it looked exactly like a pteranodon. Thunderbirds are a puzzling subject, as cryptozoologist Mark A. Hall writes in his book, Thunderbirds, America's Living Legends of Giant Birds. Quote, Thunderbirds do not yet have a place in ornithology, but like many strange animals people report, they will not go away. Thunderbirds have been sustained by American Indian traditions, by historical and modern record of uncommon claims, and even by physical evidence, most of which has not been preserved for present day examination. Some cryptozoologists theorize that Thunderbird sightings are the result of witnesses making a mistake in their assessment of the size of the object. Determining the size of something flying in the sky without any nearby points of reference can be difficult, even for trained observers. Condors, eagles, herons, and other known birds with large wingspans may seem much larger to someone on the ground, especially if that bird is one that is rarely seen. Of course, scientists don't believe that something as massive as a thunderbird actually exists, pointing to the relative lack of sightings and photographic or other evidence, and noting that with legions of bird watchers around the country, surely one of them would capture compelling evidence to support the existence of such creatures. Oh, you mean like that video I just talked about? Despite scientific naysayers, Thunderbird legends can be found in the traditions of many Native American tribes, and modern accounts do appear. According to the Kootenai, which lived right north of me, Thunderbirds were once humans and were sinister in nature. Frank B. Lindermans mentions in the book this creature in his book Kootenai Y Stories, the authorized edition, in a passage that cautions people of the Thunderbird's powers. Quote, "Old man has painted the leaves and they will soon dance with the north wind. The season when the Thunderbirds visit us has gone. They will come no more until the leaves are green again." And that's when I saw the one that I think was a Thunderbird in the spring. "They were wicked persons when this world was young, but now they do not make war unless they know that people have spoken against them. It is bad to speak ill of the Thunderbird. Yes, or even think bad thoughts of them, for thinking bad thoughts is the same as speaking them aloud, and the Thunderbirds hear our thoughts. Remember this." Beyond folkloric legend, there are accounts of physical sightings of Thunderbirds among regional tribes. Claude Schaefer recorded several accounts from members of the Blackfoot Nation who reported seeing Thunderbirds in Montana in the 19th century. An account of Schaefer's findings was published in the June 1951 issue of the Journal of the Washington Academy of Science, volume 41, number 6. Schaefer, a French archaeologist, spent time with the South Piegan Blackfoot and learned some of their traditional stories about what the tribe called Omaxapetau, meaning big petau, petau being the Blackfoot name for the golden eagle. So like a big golden eagle. And golden eagles are big. In terms of Thunderbirds, the earliest account Schaefer collected came from the 1860s. The account relates to a physical sighting and indicates that, like the Kootenai, the tribe also believed Thunderbirds were evil in nature. In the 1860s, a party of Blackfoot led by Heavy Runner set out on a horse raid against the Crow tribe. When they reached Bear Creek, they spotted a massive bird flying directly before them. Heavy Runner believed the creature was an ill omen and decided to turn back and abandon the raid. Most of the men agreed with him, but 6 men ignored the sign and continued. 5 of them were killed during the attempted raid, seemingly affirming that the bird was a sign of bad fortune. In 1879, Mary Jane, the daughter of a Blackfoot named Red Paint, was with her white husband at a summer camp in the Glacier National Park when they spotted 4 of the giant birds. 2 seemed to be juveniles, and it appeared that the birds were nesting somewhere on Chief Mountain. And then it shows a picture of that, and it looks a lot like Devil's Tower. Years later, a Thunderbird flew over the southern section of the Blackfoot Reservation in 1897. It was spotted by a man named Big Crow and his wife. They said the creature was immense and dark, with a feathered ruff and bald head. Now that kind of sounds like a vulture or a condor. A man named George Bull Child spotted a Thunderbird flying over the reservation in 1908. Several other witnesses were present, including an elder who identified the creature as a Thunderbird. Schaefer and other researchers believe the sightings of the California condor may explain accounts from the Blackfoot and other early peoples of Montana. California condor, New World vulture, huge one. Largest land bird in North America with a wingspan of 9.8, that's almost 10 feet. Their plumage is black with patches of white on the undersides of their wings. Their heads are bald and their skin ranges in color from gray to yellow and bright orange. Condors are scavengers and have a long lifespan, reaching up to 60 years of age in the best conditions. And California condors were driven close to extinction due to human elements, including poison and hunting. The U.S. government captured the remaining wild condors in the late 80s and began a program to save the birds. In 91, conservationists started releasing them back into the wild. Fossils of condors have been found as far away as Florida and New York, suggesting the species was once spread over a much wider range of North America. This could indicate that Schaefer is correct in his belief that members of the Blackfoot Nation were seeing condors. Other researchers aren't so sure. After extensive research, Mark Hall came to believe the Thunderbird sightings collectively suggested that a rare, large bird unknown to science had lived in North America. Hall further suggested that members of the species may still survive in remote pockets of wilderness. Pterothornis, there's your scientific, go look up the skeleton of that. After collecting numerous eyewitness accounts, Hall concluded that this undiscovered species had several characteristics, including a wingspan measuring 15 to 25 feet, that matches what I saw, a height of 4 to 8 feet, a head and neck devoid of feathers, dark plumage colored black, brown, or gray, what I saw had black feathers, feet capable of carrying heavy loads. Hall wrote that while Thunderbirds had an outward appearance like that of a California condor, they were predatory in nature, feeding on large game such as deer, caribou, colts, dogs, and on occasion, humans. Hall also believed the birds have a long lifespan, are primarily nocturnal, which would explain why you don't see them very much, and could be migratory. Fossil records suggest that large predatory birds known as teratorns likely lived at the same time as early humans, and these creatures had wingspans 12 to 18 feet, so they were massive birds. These parameters certainly fit the mold of Native American lore and accounts, and even modern reports of Thunderbirds. Are we done on time? A modern sighting was reported to multiple sources in October 87 and came from a young man named Matthew O'Brien. Matt and his father were traveling east in Montana on I-90 when they spotted a giant bird. The pair were somewhere in the middle of the state when the incident occurred. The bird was flying south to north. O'Brien reports, "It was the largest bird I have ever seen, bigger than an eagle or turkey vulture, wingspan 15 to 20 feet, shaped like a bird of prey." And that's what I saw. Brief sighting as we were driving at 60 miles per hour on the freeway. Saw through the windshield for 10 or 15 seconds before we weren't under it anymore. It was perhaps a few hundred feet up in the air. My friend and fellow researcher Ken Gerhard chronicled a Thunderbird report from early September 94 involving a 21-year-old man named Tony. Tony and his younger brother were backpacking near a spot known as Beartooth Plateau, a high-elevation range on the state's border with Wyoming. Camping at night near a small lake, they heard a loud splash from something hitting the water. Tony saw it in his peripheral vision. It was moving fast. I reacted, spinning back around, gigantic bird-like shape.
Super Duke, another great job. And Merry Christmas to you, my friend, as we listen to Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal rocking us in the background with Little Brother Is Watching. Yes, Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at home, at work, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, LGAP, Facebook, Spreaker, LinkedIn, the Space Travelers Club, and on Twitter, hashtag Spaced Out Radio. Remember, this show is copyright. It's Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends,
we're watching.
We own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo Train has docked for the night, but soon, my friends, we shall ride again. The seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night. right, buddy. Appreciate you. And I got to go do some heavy editing because there's a snafu on our radio side tonight. So if I want to get to bed tonight,
Crap.
for some reason, all of a sudden our Spreaker side, it's happened twice now, and I don't know why. All of a sudden it cuts off the beginning. Like there will be audio going through. I test it, and then all of a sudden comes showtime, it's blank. I'm like,
What the bleep?
yeah.
Uh-huh.
So I got to go fix that. Tomorrow night it's Merle. Merle. Get ready to Merle it up tomorrow night, everybody. We'll talk to you tomorrow night. Take care.
When the moon hangs high on the breast of the lake, and the bite of the wind is like a slap in the face, a legend of horror lurks in the haze. It's Bigfoot. A giant of a creature, all covered with hair, as tall as a timber and strong as a bear. Y'all better not go walking out there with Bigfoot. Bigfoot's coming, gonna get you, gonna get you. Bigfoot's coming, so you better watch out. Lock your doors and bolt your windows. Bigfoot's on the prowl. Bigfoot's coming, gonna get you, gonna get you. Bigfoot's coming, so you better watch out. Lock your doors and bolt your windows. Bigfoot's on the prowl. For hundreds of years, this legend has grown about this big hairy man that walks all alone. A mountain monster 10 feet tall called Bigfoot. From the tales of the traders and trappers to the image on Indian walls. From the Bear Paw Mountains of Montana to the signs of the Great Shastas. From the Flatheads to Blackfeet and the Shoshones. He must have seen them all. And when the sun goes down in the northwest woods, if you listen, you can hear him call. Bigfoot's coming, gonna get you, gonna get you. Bigfoot's coming, so you better watch out. Lock your doors and bolt your windows. Bigfoot's on the prowl. Bigfoot's coming, gonna get you, gonna get you. Bigfoot's coming, so you better watch out. Lock your doors and bolt your windows.